Hey there, internet friends, and welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions on the thing. If you like the show, we'd love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Today we are doing a solo episode where it is just me here, but I'm going to be talking about The Simpsons scenes from the class struggle in Springfield. This is season 7, episode 14. I picked this because we're kind of in a holding pattern until Book of Boba Fett finale comes out for next week. That's basically our plan for next week. And so this week I was like, I'll just knock out a quick one of these. Decided to kind of dig back into the well that I occasionally do conveniently with Simpsons projects of let's look at what released this day in history. Because The Simpsons has, of course, been running for over 30 years. If you look at many days on a calendar in that, September through May range, you'll find some episode of The Simpsons that that has released in that block. So this episode originally released here February 4th, 1996. So 26 years to the day that this episode is going live, February 1st, February 4th, 2022. Other releases of the time, you had January 23rd of 1996 is when the series Moesha debuted on UPN. March 4th was the launch of the Dish Network. March 31st was WrestleMania 12, which kind of popped off at the kind of main event of Shawn Michaels defeating Bret Hart in a 60-minute Iron Man match to win the WWF Championship for the first time for the Heartbreak Kid there. April 28th, Dexter's Laboratory premiered on Cartoon Network. And the night later, April 9th, TV Land debuted as an offshoot of Nick at Night, which is weird to think of the fact that I was 11 years old when TV Land started. Or almost 11. I was still 10, I guess, at that point. Almost 11 years old when TV Land started. I'm old, but I do remember many evenings of Nick at Night. This has a runtime of 23 minutes. In the Simpsons timeline of things, between this falls between the episode Two Bad Neighbors, where George and Barbara Bush move into Springfield, and this is followed by Bart the Fink, where Krusty the Clown is left almost broke after Bart inadvertently rats him out to the IRS. Roll call. Diving in, the director of this episode is Susie Dieter, who would direct 11 episodes of The Simpsons over her time with the series. She also directed 6 episodes of the series Recess and 6 episodes of Futurama. Writers, the writer is Jennifer Crittenden for this episode. Crittenden. She did 5 episodes, plus another 25 as a staff writer for The Simpsons. And she also wrote on 6 episodes of Seinfeld, 10 episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond, and 6 episodes of The New Adventures of Old Christine. Starring, of course, the kind of core cast of The Simpsons. We have, of course, Dan Castellaneta as Homer, who is at 730 episodes and counting on the series. Julie Kavner is Marge, missing in one fewer episode somewhere along the line there. She is in 729 episodes. Nancy Cartwright as Bart for 730. Yeardley Smith as Lisa at 728 episodes. So she is 2 shy of kind of the total. Hank Azaria playing Apu and many other characters in here at 719 episodes. Harry Shearer in there as Lenny and various other characters, has done every episode, 730 episodes. And guest star for this episode, we have Tom Kite as himself, golf pro and winner of the 1992 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. A little bit of trivia on this episode. Typically, I run through the chalkboard gag and the sofa gag. This is one of those episodes that was presumably running long because it has the abbreviated introduction. So there is no chalkboard gag. It just kind of cuts straight to the car coming in to the garage. We get the sofa gag, which is basically a black light kind of vibe, and then Homer turns on the light and it turns to a normal vibe. So like you get kind of their weird, I would describe it as like hot topic colors of the Simpsons. And then it goes to the normal. Other trivia we have: this is the first time a female writer and director were credited in the same episode. So I thought that was kind of fitting given the topic and kind of central story of this one. Krusty's line, "I knew my kind wasn't welcome here," is likely a reference to his background, as many country clubs historically have not allowed Jewish members, especially at that time. You know, obviously, things opening up more and more nowadays, but yeah. I also appreciated, just as a side, the running gag of like Krusty gets almost run over when the Simpsons are driving into the country club for the first time. He gets clubbed on the head by, I think, an errant ball or club at some point, and then finally gets like knocked over by something else when he has kind of his line there. But yeah, basically the rule of three, like just bang, bang, bang at Krusty. The country club's women's clothes were changed in every scene, which is, of course, in fitting with the fact that Marge's clothes do not. But this is something that Susie Dieter thought was hard to do because the animators had to come up with new designs in each of the scenes. On the audio DVD commentary, it is mentioned that Marge was allowed to say that she had a Chanel dress, both the discounted suit and the second one she bought when the first one was ruined, but they couldn't show the actual name, which is why Marge's finger covers up the label and why a tree covers up the Chanel storefront. So, you know, lawyer's gonna lawyer. Marge's line, "I wouldn't want to join any club that would have this me as a member," is a paraphrasing of a famous quote by Groucho Marx. And last little one here that I would not have probably recognized, but it is, I think, one of those little iconic elements of the series. This is the first episode to use the new modified font for the end credits and the opening credits of the show. And this font has been used for the show since its debut in this episode. So it was a little historic episode of The Simpsons. How does this episode hold up? What do I think? I think it still, holds up as a strong episode. This is probably one of those, if you were to ask me like a Marge centric episode, especially from like the era where I was really, watching this again. I would have been like 10 years old when this episode came out. Like this is probably one of those standouts I would think about with it's basically like this and A Streetcar Named Marge or whatever, where like she goes to be Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire. Those are probably the two Marge centric episodes that would like immediately come to mind. This one of her kind of getting this like confidence and status from this, off the rack outlet store dress that she finds. It was amusing as I was watching it, the fact that like the setup for it is, the grandpa breaks the TV was like funnily basically one of the premises for one of the dinosaurs episodes that Frank and I talked about a couple months back for that episode of D Plus Show, where like one of the episodes we watched was just, they needed to get a new TV, and that's that was the kickoff for, I think, the game show episode or something like that. So just a nice little like, here's a reason we all need to go to the store, and we all need to go to the Ogdenville outlet mall. Another little bit of trivia I saw was that this is basically the first reference of Ogdenville since the monorail episode, where Ogdenville was mentioned as one of the people that Lyle Landley had sold a monorail to. It's I would say a disappointing lack. There's a disappointing lack of a throwaway gag, like visual gag of the monorail just like destroyed downtown or something like that. But alas, we only see really the outlet store here from the very very far away Ogdenville. um, but yeah, um, so again ultimately I thought it held up pretty well. I think there's obviously still a significant class struggle, of course. So the idea that like um, Marge is trying to kind of enjoy a little bit of life in the upper crust, um, despite the Simpsons being a very like middle class of the middle class kind of family. Um, it's and obviously with I think Marge's even history within kind of the lore of the series is like she was from a much better off family and then kind of like married beneath her for with Homer. um I think is kind of the like in terms of like class status. So like the fact that she's kind of recognized by one of her schoolmates or whatever, and kind of brought into the fold here is in fitting with what had been established of Marge up to this point. Um, so yeah, I think it holds up pretty well. I overall enjoyed the episode. I think it's a solid Marge episode. So it's probably lighter on the like jokes and slapstick comedy stuff. Obviously, there's going to be bits of it here and there, but it's much more about the realness of and the emotion and the and kind of the struggles that obviously Marge is facing in this episode, and kind of the prejudice she faces as a result, and the pressure she has of kind of wanting to chase that bliss that she gets in kind of the yeah in the throes of the country club. A few favorite moments and jokes that kind of like jumped to my mind as I was watching. The yes, yes, hot dog, yes sir, no sir, maybe okay. That line is like ingrained in me from like that is just such a like an iconic Apu kind of line of pretending that he doesn't speak English to kind of avoid have to deal with like bad customers or uppity customers like this woman who needs help pumping her own gas kind of aspect. So yeah, I was like as soon as he says it, I'm like, oh, this is the episode that line's from. Okay, cool. Continuing on in that scene, I love kind of the little tag of it is Burns showing up in his like super old timey car, and like looking for like calcium trait petrol or something like that, like some kind of very old timey gasoline kind of stuff. So a lot of the Simpsons writers have kind of gone on record repeatedly talking about how Burns is basically their like one of their favorite characters to write because he's just in such a world of his own with his wealth and his age that they can just kind of like endlessly play with that and have fun with those ideas. um I feel like Lisa's love of horses, I feel like exists in many more episodes other than this one. And so like I love that like that kind of suppresses her righteous indignation that she's feeling in the prejudices of the country club and stuff, because she's like, I want to play with horses. I want to go do the horse stuff. Yay. um Probably my favorite gag of the episode is Marge's kind of inner monologue when she's playing cards and trying to figure out if she should like, be good or if she should like play to win, be cutthroat kind of thing. And it just kind of like goes up and up and up and finally gets to a point of don't ask me, I'm just hair. Your head ended 18 inches ago. Just a great little again visual gag that again we don't get like a ton with Marge. Marge is so often the straight man in the series. So like her getting funny gag moments and stuff like that is shout out to Julie Kavner selling them really well. I love just the absurdity of Homer thinking that beating Burns would be very good for his career. Beating his boss at golf, how that's going to be the thing that lands him his raise, because that is, of course, never the case. And then I love when Marge is kind of going through and she has her epiphany and she's talking about what she loves about each of the families. She's like the element that she loves about each of the family. I love Homer's blah blah blah. I love Lisa's blah blah blah. I love Bart's I love Bart. She can't land on a thing that she actually appreciates, but of course, you gotta love your kid. And then I often like to kind of uh, discuss jokes that I definitely didn't appreciate as a kid as much growing up because obviously elements of these shows are a little bit more written for an adult audience and would have gone significantly over my head. One of those, a simple line, but Lisa telling her mom, just buy it. You don't have to rationalize everything. And then Lisa immediately says, it'll be good for the economy, immediately rationalizing it with that thing. Um, as somebody who has worked like at the Costco gas stations and stuff over the years, when I worked for Costco, the idea of a rich woman needing to call AAA to pump gas for her is something that I like definitely didn't appreciate as much at the time compared to when like women at, and because Arizona, for the few of you that live in weird states or elsewhere where like you don't pump your own gas, Arizona has always been a pump your own gas kind of state my entire life. So women coming into the Costco gas station, when I would be out there working a shift as an attendant or something like that, and being like, can you help me? Can you help me pump the gas? And be like, you just like you legitimately don't know how this works. You don't know how to push the button on the thing, and also the like very old timey looking gas pumps. Obviously, at Apu's is also a funny little gag, um but yeah, it's like I, as somebody who has pumped gas for little old like rich women who just didn't know how, or whose husbands had always done it for them and then they passed or something like that. I definitely got an extra chuckle out of this hoity-toity rich woman not knowing how to do it herself, trying to ask a poo, and then just saying, all right, screw it, I'll just call AAA, they'll do it. And then I also definitely did not appreciate, and I think I might have, even still missed it this time around, without the subtitles or whatever, but the fact that like all of the rich women at the country club are basically like the super pretentious names of like Karen and Jillian and Elizabeth and Patricia and Roberta and Susan, and it's like, Corinne and Gillian and like Elizabeth or something, like just like ridiculous versions of those very, very normal names. I very much appreciate it. So I think that's it for this episode. Again, a little light on the laughs, but heavy on the heart of Marge going through the struggles, and like the Marge like wanting a thing for herself is something that we just don't often get in The Simpsons. So yeah, I appreciated this episode, and it's definitely again one that when this one came up in like days in Simpson history, I was like, oh, yep, that's absolutely the one I'm gonna land on and pull from. So yeah, shout out to the struggles or scenes of a class struggle from The Simpsons. Scenes from the class struggle in Springfield. A little bit of extra credit for you if you like this. The offerings that you have there on Disney Plus will be the Simpsons movie, kind of up front. Then you have Te Deseo Lo Mejor, which is a Simpsons and Bad Bunny kind of crossover short that they put up, I think, late last year. We have The Good, the Bart, and the Loki, which is a Simpsons short that coincided with the Loki series on Disney Plus. Playdate with Destiny, and Longest Daycare, Simpsons shorts that predated. I think one of them predated the Simpsons movie, and then another one was one of the like Frozen 2 or something like that. It was something Disney where it was like seeing a Simpsons short in front of a Disney thing was like, oh, yep, they bought Fox. That's totally a real thing now. We have The Force Awakens from its nap, which is a Simpsons short that I believe came or was released last year for May the 4th. May the 4th be with you day. Then you have DuckTales and Big City Greens rounding out the squad. I'm sure eventually they will have a couple more shorts on there and it'll just be all like, go see other Simpsons things. Other extracurriculars, other things watching on Disney Plus. Like many people, I've been watching along with the Book of Boba Fett. Without diving into spoilers, I've really enjoyed, obviously, I think the last couple episodes where it's a little bit moved away from Boba Fett's story into kind of other elements of the Star Wars universe. This last episode in particular, kind of the penultimate one, it was, an almost endless string of like, oh, it's that character, oh, it's that character, oh, it's that character, and they like cool seeing them all kind of like come into this story, or come back into the story and scenes and stuff here, and seeing how they interact with one another. So really enjoying that. Again, the plan, I think at least one or two of the other team members that were at that nerdy site are planning on catching up with the series and joining me for next week's episode, which will be kind of our Book of Boba Fett, full season recap. And we will talk about that. Yeah, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you for joining me as I sat here by myself on my couch talking about some Simpsons. It's always fun kind of hopping in and revisiting this show, especially some of these earlier episodes that, are so ingrained in my mind from my youth. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will give a shout out to our Saturday podcast that goes up every Saturday only on youtube.com/thatnerdysite, called That Bond Show, where myself and Logan Wilkinson have been going through the entirety of kind of the Bond saga. We've wrapped up all of our original run of Sean Connery at this point, and tomorrow's episode, the episode that goes live the day after this goes out, is our On Her Majesty's Secret Service episode, the debut and solo standing of George Lazenby. So you can go check out our thoughts on that movie, as well as Logan's companion pieces that he puts up every Saturday on the website. His kind of reviews and rundowns of some extra thoughts from him in written form. So go check out all that fun stuff. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining me. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.